Looking at this bank statement is humbling to say the least. What is your guilty pleasure when it comes to spending? I'd have to say alcohol. No, I don't think anyone can get rich. 3 years ago, I went through a divorce and my name is Jodi McDonald. I am currently a parish administrator for St. Matthew's Episcopal Church. Do you have a rent or a mortgage? I do have a rent. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend, and we pay $1,830 a month for the 2-bedroom apartment. I could not afford it on my own. That truth be told, I could not pay half of that $1,800 on my own. And so I said, what can we do? And my boyfriend said, I live here. I'm going to live here with or without you, so don't pay me anything. And I said, I still don't like that. I need to pay something. So we talked and we worked out, and what I do is I pay part of the utilities, which is only about $50 a month, but we also take it out in trade. So I do all of the house cleaning, and I do the grocery shopping as well. Do you have an emergency fund? Yes and no. I don't have something that I call an emergency fund, but I do have a savings account. And I call that my emergency fund because I don't touch it unless an emergency comes up. It currently has about $2,100 in it. I do have a financial advisor, which I've had for at least 10 years. We talked about my options, and I decided to invest in CDs. I did one at 3 months, one at 6 months, and one at 12 months. And the reason that I did that is because currently I am debt-free and life is good. That could be called an emergency fund, because if something big comes up, rather than go into debt, I just wait the allotted amount of time, pull the money out of the CD. So between $3,000 to $5,000 is my emergency fund. How much do you have towards retirement? I currently have an IRA, which contains about $19,000 in it, which I'm working on. At what age do I expect to retire? I really didn't think seriously about it until the last 2 to 3 years. I am 54 and I expect to retire at 62. So that's about 8 years from now. Do I have any other retirements? Yes, I have a pension because I work for the Episcopal Church. They are kind to their employees, and I have a pension through the church. And I also have something which to me was new. It's an investment account. It's called Acorns. It's an online investing. So you open an Acorn account and you give your bank information, which is verified through Plaid, which Plaid has already been verified. And then any time that you buy something, it just automatically rounds up. If I spend $72.54, then it will take that other 46 and pop it into my Acorn account. I've had the account about 3 years, and in 3 years, I've got about $310. My current annual salary is in or around $25,000. Do you have any debt? Thankfully, no. I can happily say that I'm currently debt-free. I have not always been debt-free. As a matter of fact, 3 years ago, I went through a divorce and I kept the house, so I had to pay my ex-husband his half of the equity in the home, and I didn't have that amount of money lying around. So I maxed out cash advances on 2 of my credit cards and borrowed against my IRA. And then I was a little over $11,000 in debt, which initially was scary. I sat at a table and I cried. But then a really good friend of mine came over and we sat down and we hashed out a budget and we slashed what I did and didn't need. And 18 months later, I was debt-free. Do you have any assets that you owe money on? I can happily say that I do not currently have any assets I owe money on. As of July of 2024, I had a HELOC on the home that I lived in. And even though I was debt-free, I was only making the interest payments, so I needed to figure out how to hash that out. Again, a good friend of mine stepped in, helped me to work on the home I was living in, helped me to make some improvements, enough so that I could put my house on the market. And then, lucky me, my daughter approached me and said, "Mom, would you sell the house to me?" So I did. And after I sold the home, I not only paid off the HELOC, but I had a large chunk of change left over, which I then invested. What was your worst money decision and why? Treating a credit card like cash. It was, in essence, living above my means, which was a big mistake. The case in point that stands out the most happened a long time ago, probably 25, 30 years ago. Didn't have a lot, but had enough, and was promised a big bonus. Oh, we're gonna get this big bonus and everybody, and this is how much, and great, great. So what did I do? I took my credit card and I went out and I spent the amount of the bonus. Well, guess what? Things changed, things happened. No bonuses this year. So now I am in debt for this amount. And not only am I in debt, I don't have it in savings. So now I have to pay it back plus, because there's this handy dandy little thing called interest that no one tells you about. So now I'm paying back what I spent plus interest. What is the best piece of financial advice you can give? Do your absolute level best to not go into debt. If you can at all help it, just don't do it. Looking at this bank statement, it's humbling to say the least. For someone who's been going on about how well I stick to a budget, this will tell the truth. This is a transfer to my savings account for $755. And that was me playing catch up. Every Friday I put money in savings. Sometimes I missed it, so I caught it back up. So try to keep your savings on point. There's a credit dividend. I actually don't have a bank, I have a credit union. And what my credit union does is at the end of the year, they do what they call the give back, and they put money into your account. It's not a lot, but it's like $1.50, but it's $1.50 that I didn't have before. There's a $10, a $5, and a $12.70, and those are all for the Dome. I went to see an SU football game with my boyfriend and some friends from out of town, and they bought the tickets, and so I budgeted in for the discretionary that I was going to spend way too much on food at the Dome. Next one is gas, $30, $20. I try to do even numbers for gas because it makes it easier budgeting. I've been filling my tank once a week. I used to just fill it piecemeal every couple days, but then I realized I was spending more. I don't know the logic behind that, but I fill it, and then when it gets low, I refill it, and I end up spending less. The next one to that is the thrifty shopper. We like to go thrifting, so we go, and that the budget store was $31 and a thrifty shopper was $21. So I don't spend a lot at each, but end up I can get probably a couple $100 in clothes for about $35. More gasoline, another $30. State Farm, this comes out automatically. State Farm, $97.11. That is about $86 for my car insurance, and another $12 to $15 for a hospital indemnity plan. Again, it comes out direct debit. I do as much direct debit as I can. Here's one for $15. That would be my copay, because I have therapy once a week. When I started going to therapy, I had to add in those copays, make an adjustment in the budget. This is a big one. This is $500, and this is for PayPal. I do have a PayPal account, and I use it for a couple things. Sometimes it's convenience, because they don't take credit cards. I don't have the cash on me, but they take PayPal, so I'll go ahead and use it. And that I also pay off, though. So when I'm using PayPal, if I spend $500, I make sure the next time I get paid, I pay the PayPal. Here's another one that's $755. That's paying off my credit card. I check my credit card every few weeks, and when it gets above $200, I pay it down, either back down to $2 or to $0. Oh, my AAA, that's $11.91 a month. That also comes out every month, and that is so worth it, especially with an older car. I mean, it's less than $12 a month, and it's the premium. So if I travel anywhere and I need to make reservations, I waive the travel fee, and I get 4 tows a year, no limit on how far, and I get lockouts, and I get all kinds of stuff. I highly recommend AAA to anyone. Saves so much. This is another deposit. This is from my other job. I have another part-time job. I work for the Sauvé Library, and I used to work there 20 hours a week, and then I got a full-time job, so now I'm only on the sub list, but still it helps, because the pension I mentioned earlier, I have a second one I forgot to mention, and that's through the village. So you only have to work one shift every 12 months, and you can stay in their system and stay on the payroll, and then every time you work, you contribute a little bit to your pension. And yeah, it's a little bit, but it's something. So that's something I would look into. Even if you take a second part-time job, find out what they offer, because I've had 3 small part-time jobs over the last 15 years, and they've all slowly contributed to that pension. Do you have a budget? Oh, absolutely I have a budget. The budget is the only way that I've been able to stay afloat over the last 5 years. I am a big believer in budgets. When I first became single and needed to pay bills and didn't have a lot to pay them with, I sat down and came up with a budget. I have a notebook. I do it the old-fashioned way. Sat down with a notebook, a full 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, full top to bottom of things that needed to be paid off. And then you fast forward those 18 months, and now instead of full, it's about 3/4. And then you fast forward another year and a half. My situation now, there are only about 6 things on there. If I want to travel, I have something big budget, what I do is use the envelope system. I literally take an envelope and I write car across it. And every Friday, throw $10 in, throw $10 in. When it gets closer to the actual for a trip, I can see how much I have and then figure out how to come up with the rest of it. For a car, whatever I have, that's now my down payment towards the next vehicle that I'm having. What is the hardest part about managing your finances and why? The hardest part about managing the finances is sticking to the budget. You have to stick to it. You really do. Because if you don't, you're gonna go slide back into debt again. There were literally times where I paid my bills. So every bill was paid, no debt, food on the table, and I had 50 cents left in my bank account. However, I stuck to the budget and it didn't last. That's my monthly income. And this is, I actually only pay a percentage. I rent, but as I had mentioned before, I take it out and trade and I pay just a percentage. And groceries, gas money. The medical is for my copays, and being on a lower income, I also have a much lower premium. In my case, I don't have one. So, but that's because I'm low income. Even though I'm low income, I'm also out of debt. That's how all of this works together. Subscriptions, I have Pandora, 13, and I have Google's 15. Okay, that's a ballpark. This one, hooray. Savings every month is, I don't know if I mentioned it, but it's automatic. The Friday thing, it just goes boom right into from my checking right into my savings. Insurance, that's for my car insurance and my hospital indemnity. And investments, I'm not currently putting in, but I need to. So I'm gonna do a ballpark right here, because that's what I'm gonna start doing. I have a membership to a fitness club, and I didn't put it under subscription because it's not really, but it does come out direct debit every month. So that would be, my fitness membership is, let's say about 2. I'm looking at that and I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't either, it's going somewhere. There's a difference of like 6, and then that's gotta be going somewhere. Oh, I know what I'm forgetting. It's another category. 10% of my income. That's something I intended to say earlier. I've heard save 10, give 10, use the rest. So 10% of my income, I do what's called the tithe. I do 10% of the gross, and I give that to the church. So that would be 190. That would be almost, a third of what's missing. So I'll change this number from 2 to, I'll double that. I mean, I'm looking at this, I can see how blessed I am. What is your guilty pleasure when it comes to spending? If I'm gonna be honest, I'd have to say alcohol. I don't go for middle of the road, I buy the top shelf. But in my defense, buying 1 bottle of top shelf is a lot cheaper than going out all of the time. So you choose your battles. That's really all I spend a lot on. I thrift for everything, so my clothes, my shoes, I go thrifting, furniture, you name it. How do you define rich and why? This question has changed over time. If you would asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, well, that's easy. Rich means you have tons of money, 3 cars and a huge house, and you can have anything you want. And then my life changed, and I started to realize that even though the money went away, But what didn't go away was the friendships and the family connections and all of that. I would define someone is rich as someone who is content, actually. If you're content, you have what you need and it's enough for you, and you're not constantly looking for more, or you're not worrying about having enough, then you are absolutely rich. Do you think anyone can get rich? Why? No, I don't think anyone can get rich. But do I think that someone can become rich? Yes. I think there's a difference. Getting rich implies get rich schemes and more money. But becoming rich implies changing the way you think and the way you live and the way you, changing your whole relationship with you and money, actually. Why did you want to come on the show? 2 reasons. First reason, and I'm being completely honest, is, hey, cool, I get to be on a YouTube show. I've never done that before. But the second reason is because I found out what it was actually about. And I said, really? And I was referred to this by a friend of mine, and my friend is also really good with money, and she encouraged me to do it. And I said, I would like to come on this show because hopefully my experience and my advice will help somebody else who is in my position to get out, will give somebody hope, and will save another person from going there.